Hello everyone and welcome. In this video we'll take a look at the reopening of the Universal Orlando Resort. This is what the park looked like on last Friday, June 12th, 2020. So now when you arrive to Universal, the first thing you do before you even get to the security check is you have to have your temperature taken. Now if your temperature is 100.4 degrees or above, you will not be allowed to enter the park. You're also required to wear a face mask at all times. They use a touchless laser thermometer to take your temperature. Now you are allowed to remove your face mask, say if you're getting something to eat or drink, and there's 2 designated locations within each of the theme parks and 1 in City Walk. Universal calls them a U-Rest area, and they are basically parts of the park where you can go and remove your face mask. Now this is just before noon, so this gives you a really good idea of the crowd levels at Universal here. It was pretty slow, especially for this time of year. Now we're going to start here at Islands of Adventure, and we are in the Port of Entry. Now Port of Entry is where we will encounter the first U-Rest area. It is at the end of the Port of Entry, right next to the lagoon. Now this is of course the U-Rest area. It just gives you a better idea of where it's located exactly. We'll take a look at the wait times here. You can see most of the wait times are pretty low, and these are all the standby wait times. Now they also have a virtual queue for some of the attractions, not all of them. For instance, on Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure, you have to use the app and reserve a time through the virtual queue. And by the time I arrived at the park, they were all gone for the day. So if you're wanting to go on Hagrid's, you definitely need to get there earlier. Now what you do to reserve a time in the virtual queues, it's all done through the Universal app. You just have to download the app. You don't have to create an account or be signed in. It does require you to be inside the park because it does use your location, so you can't do it before you get there, like you can for Disney. The app will allow you to reserve 2 different times in the virtual queue. So you can have 2 different attractions reserved at one given time. Of course, they have to be for different attractions. You can't have multiple times on the same attraction. Now, when your time becomes available in the virtual queue, you just present your phone. It'll have a code on it, and a Universal team member will just scan it before you enter the line for the attraction. We're in line now for Spider-Man, and what I'm showing here is just the social distancing markers that are on the floor. You'll see up here right before we go to board the ride, there's a Universal team member that is giving everyone that passes through some hand sanitizer, and you're required to use hand sanitizer before you can get on the ride. Here's a look at the construction for the unannounced Jurassic Park coaster that is currently under construction. Now you can see they have some characters here in between Marvel Superhero Island and Toon Lagoon, and they're standing on this small stage here. They use a stage, that way you can social distance and still get a picture with the characters or take a picture of the characters. One thing I wasn't able to show you was on the Spider-Man ride. They are loading guests in the first and last row. There are 4 rows in the attraction. That way you have a nice distance between you and other park guests. Then on some attractions, they will load park guests in every other row. So on all the rides except for the water rides, you're required to wear your face mask, and it has to cover your mouth and your nose. The only problem I really encountered with that, they are hotter when you're out in the sun, but when you're on the 3D rides, it did tend to fog the glasses up pretty bad. I had to either pull the mask down where it wasn't covering my nose or not be able to see. We're looking now at the Jurassic Park coaster that is under construction. Now this coaster still hasn't been announced by Universal. You can see they've made a lot of progress on it, and it looks like they're getting close to having the whole track installed. And you can see it looks like it's going to make some pretty wild maneuvers over the water. We're looking at the construction here from Toon Lagoon. You can see even from the last video I filmed here, they've made a lot of progress in 1 week's time. This is a view of it from almost as close as you can get to it, I think. And you'll see how close it comes to the Popeye ride. You can see there is a building built back there. I think that's going to be part of the ride, maybe the maintenance building for the ride. You can also see a tower being built there. We'll take a couple more looks at the construction from some different angles in the park. I also wanted to answer all the questions and comments that I received on my last video and on Facebook. One thing I was asked is if you have to have a reservation to get inside the park, and no, you do not. Universal is currently using basically a first come, first serve to get into the park. So if you want to make sure you can get inside the park, I would just get there early. I don't think they've reached capacity, but I know they're operating at a much lower than normal capacity. Another question I had was, how are they controlling access to the free ride lockers? What they're doing for those is they're just allowing a certain amount of people in there at a time, and they have one entrance and one exit, so everyone's essentially going the same way, which allows you to social distance a lot better than normal. Some of them get really busy and crowded, especially Hogwarts and Gringotts are two I can think of that are always really crowded. And you can see here on the Jurassic Park River Adventure, they have park guests spread out on every other row. And you see most people aren't wearing their face mask on the water ride. I think the reasoning behind that is you wouldn't want that lagoon water to be on your face mask and have it over your mouth and nose all day, because it is kind of some dirty, nasty water. Across from the entrance to Jurassic Park River Adventure, of course, is the construction for the new coaster they're building. Gives you an idea of how everything's going to sit in here when it's completed. And you can see there is a new raptor encounter they built. The entrance is located right here. It's probably about 50 feet down from the River Adventure entrance on the same side. Now, I didn't go into the raptor encounter yet, so maybe I'll do that on my next visit. And we can see here the remainder of the construction you can see here from the Jurassic Park area, right next to the Discovery Center. And this building you see under construction is for new lockers being built for Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey. So they're going to replace the ones that are inside the castle. I believe those will go away. Now, as we look the opposite way on the bridge, we can see the construction for the Jurassic Park coaster, and you can see it makes some pretty big maneuvers over here. Now you can see the social distance markings they have set up here in front of all the stages. Anywhere where there's live entertainment, they have markings on the ground. That way people know where to stand. And for the most part, people are following the markings on the ground. You know, occasionally you run into people in line on some of the attractions and they're not following it very well. But I would say the majority of people are, and the majority of people are also wearing their face mask like they're supposed to. And they have instructions out here on how to use the virtual line. It's really simple to use, just download the app. And you can see here that Hagrid's was a virtual line only. Now in some areas over here, the social distancing wasn't very good just due to the sheer amount of people that are always in this area. Now we're getting ready to come up on the second U-Rest area. It's here in the Lost Continent, and what they're using for this area is the old Sinbad Theater. I didn't actually go inside, but you can see here the signs that kind of direct you to that area. And there's some big signs out front of it here that you can see as you go to enter it. And then, of course, you can take your face mask off there. Now, one thing I wanted to point out is all the kids' play areas. There's 3 in Islands of Adventure. There's the one in Seuss Landing, there's one in Toon Lagoon, and, of course, the Camp Jurassic area. And they are all closed. Only the coaster in Camp Jurassic is currently open. All the caves, the nets, the slides, and everything are all closed. And we're going to look again at the construction here from a different angle. We're almost as close as we can get to the construction here in the Lost Continent. It gives you just a little different view here from this angle. I'll zoom in again here and you can see that maintenance building I was talking about. And you can also see the tower. The tower is kind of camouflaged in with the Jurassic Park River Adventure building, but you can see it there on the right hand side. Now another look at it here as we start to head out of the Lost Continent. As we head into Seuss Landing here, I will zoom in with the camera and it'll give you a good idea just how slow the park is. Some of the smaller retail stores are closed, as well as some of the kiosks. I know the Dippin' Dots kiosks were closed. I believe all of them were closed at both parks, as well as several other kiosks throughout the park. You can see there's a line up here to get into the cafe. The line stretches outside, mostly due to, I believe, the limited seating available. They'll have a Universal team member at the door, and they only allow so many people inside at a time. And then they have removed tables, and they'll close some of the booths if they're too close to each other. That way you're able to maintain a distance. And here's our final look at the construction for the Jurassic Park coaster. From this angle, you can see that tower quite a bit better. We'll start to make our way out of Islands of Adventure now and start heading over to Universal Studios. We're going to go inside the Islands of Adventure Trading Company store here. What we're going to look at are the face masks they have for sale. And you can see they have some social distancing markers on the ground here outside the store if it gets too busy. And then there's some signs inside the store. And the signs just remind you to keep a 6-foot distance between you and other park guests. We'll look at the face masks they have for sale here. You can see they have a few different styles here that they didn't have on my last visit a week ago. You can see they have these Hello Kitty ones, and then they have these with the old retro, the original Universal Studios logo, which were really popular. And they're either $6 a piece, or you can get 3 for $15. Now we're headed out of Islands of Adventure and headed over to Universal Studios. You can see here across the water the Universal Globe. As we get closer to the entrance of Universal, you will see the U-Rest area that's here in City Walk. And you can see just how few people are here at City Walk currently. It's probably about 2 in the afternoon. On this day, both of the theme parks were open until 7 p.m. and over at Volcano Bay, it was open until 5 p.m., with City Walk being open until 10 p.m. We'll start out here in the production central part of Universal. First thing we're going to do is look at the wait times. You can see they're really low over here as well, especially for it being the middle of June. Now I believe the only ride over here at Universal that's using only the virtual queue, the Race Through New York starring Jimmy Fallon. All the other rides have standby queues. I believe only Fast and Furious and Jimmy Fallon have the virtual queue available over here at Universal. As we move along here, we'll take a brief look over at the Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket. You can see, it's kind of hard to see from here, but they have guests spaced out. Looks like they're every other row. Usually this time of year, this area in front of the stage is just filled with people. You can see there's almost no one over there right now. Now we're over here in the New York section of the park. You can see there's quite a few more people over here. Still pretty slow. If you look really close here, you can see just about everyone, it appears, is wearing their mask in here. It's kind of hard to check everyone in here, there's so many people, but it does look like the majority of people are wearing the mask. There's some really great attention to detail in this area. I did notice something I hadn't noticed before. You can see in the window up here there is a nice tribute to Led Zeppelin. It says Zeppelin Productions Orchestrations, and then it has the name of all 4 members of the band. For some reason they have the Zeppelin in the bottom spelt wrong, or spelt differently I should say. But nice little tribute. I don't think I've ever noticed that before. There's another one I will point out later in the video in the Hollywood section that I didn't realize was there until on this day. Now we're in the San Francisco part of the park. You can see everyone in this area is doing a pretty good job with social distancing, and see the markers on the ground there on the left. Now we'll start heading towards Diagon Alley. You can still see the lower crowds over here in the San Francisco area. Over here by the Jaws shark that is hanging right next to the water here, there was no one over there at all, which is really rare. Typically, you only see that when the park opens early in the morning. When we get inside of Diagon Alley here, you will see how slow it is there. Probably one of the smallest crowds I've ever seen in there. This is typically one of the busiest lands, if not the busiest land in the entire park. It's usually packed full of people. Now we'll head over towards the World Expo area. Here we'll encounter the first U-Rest area, which is going to be in the Fear Factor Live Theater. They're not currently doing the Fear Factor show because they are using the theater as a U-Rest area. So it's another area you can go in and remove your face mask. Over in Springfield here, you can see it's really slow as well. There's almost no one outside of the Simpsons ride. Up ahead here on the right in the Central Park section is the second U-Rest area, located within Universal Studios Florida. Heading into the Kids Zone section, you will see they are using the stage over here for characters. They have Squidward out there now. We'll head over now to the E.T. Adventure, and I will show you all the social distancing markers they have in the line there. When you enter the ride building, where they usually show you the film before the ride with Steven Spielberg, you skip that part. You also skip the part where you get your passport. So what it does is it just kind of gives you the generic ending without it saying goodbye and giving your name. All the team members at Universal were doing a pretty good job of making sure everyone maintained a distance between each other and that all people had their face mask on at all times. You can see all the social distancing markers here on the ground, and you can even see them as we begin to enter the forest. Some are a little hard to see when it's darker in some of the queues and stuff, but not so bad.
People, all planets.
Now we're in the Hollywood section of the park, and you can see it's slow over here as well. The second detail I wanted to show you is in the window here. You'll see that Universal has added a tribute in the window. You'll see 6 names here. These are 6 team members that unfortunately lost their life in the Pulse nightclub shooting, which took place back in 2016. Now this day happened to be the 4-year anniversary of that unfortunate event that took place here, and I thought it was only appropriate to show it to everyone. For those of you that maybe weren't aware that it was there, it is a nice touch by Universal. You can see there's a line here outside of the pass holder lounge, and as you look further down the street, you can see all the signage up for the Bourne Stuntacular show, which should be opening soon. In fact, they've already began technical rehearsals. And this just about concludes our video. If you have any further questions, you can leave them in the comment section, and I will try my best to answer them. This also marks the first video in which I've added commentary over, so any feedback or suggestions you can give me there and ways I can improve it or make it more interesting, leave that also in the comment section. Hopefully this is the first of many videos to appear on this channel with commentary. If you like this video, please give it a like and hit that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.